The requirement to provide a comprehensive list of all dates entered into Israel represents a critical component of the Aliyah application process, serving multiple purposes for Israeli immigration authorities while creating significant documentation challenges for applicants with extensive travel histories to the country. This detailed travel record enables officials to assess an applicant's prior connection to Israel, verify previous immigration compliance, and identify any potential security or legal issues that may have arisen during previous visits. Israeli authorities require complete documentation of every entry into the country, including tourist visits, business trips, educational programs, volunteer experiences, family visits, and any other form of travel to Israeli territory. This comprehensive approach reflects the understanding that prior visits to Israel often indicate genuine connection to the country and can provide evidence of serious intent to make Aliyah rather than simply seeking convenient citizenship. The frequency, duration, and purpose of previous visits help immigration officials assess the likelihood of successful integration into Israeli society. The documentation must include specific entry and exit dates for each visit, requiring applicants to reconstruct their travel history with precision that often exceeds their actual memory of these events. Passport stamps, airline tickets, hotel reservations, tour group records, and personal travel documentation become crucial sources for establishing accurate chronologies. For applicants who have visited Israel multiple times over many years, this process can require extensive research through personal records and travel documentation that may have been stored away or discarded. Entry purposes must be clearly documented for each visit, distinguishing between tourism, religious pilgrimage, educational programs, volunteer work, business activities, family visits, and other specific reasons for travel. Israeli authorities pay particular attention to extended stays, participation in Israeli programs such as birthright, study abroad experiences, volunteer work on kibbutzim, and any previous attempts to establish residence in the country. These extended connections often strengthen Aliyah applications by demonstrating sustained engagement with Israeli society and culture. Border crossing complications from previous visits must be fully disclosed, including any instances of extended questioning by security personnel, delays in entry processing, temporary detention, or denial of entry. Even minor incidents that applicants may have forgotten or considered insignificant could appear in Israeli immigration databases and must be acknowledged in the application. Failure to disclose previous border issues can result in serious complications during the Aliyah evaluation process, as Israeli authorities maintain comprehensive records of all border interactions. Overstay incidents require particular attention and documentation, as any period where an applicant remained in Israel beyond their authorized visit, duration must be explained and contextualized. Tourist visa overstays, expired student visa situations, or any unauthorized extensions of stay create potential complications for Aliyah applications that must be addressed through complete disclosure and appropriate legal explanation. Israeli authorities evaluate these incidents within the context of overall immigration compliance and the applicant's demonstrated respect for immigration law. Work authorization violations during previous visits must be disclosed, including any instances of unauthorized employment, volunteer work that exceeded visa restrictions, or business activities conducted without appropriate permits. Many applicants discover that volunteer work they considered harmless actually violated their tourist visa conditions, creating technical immigration violations that must be acknowledged and explained. The Israeli authorities' approach to these violations depends largely on their scope, duration, and the applicant's transparency in reporting them. Military service considerations affect the travel history documentation for applicants who may have been eligible for Israeli military service during previous extended visits. Young adults who spent significant time in Israel on educational or volunteer programs may have triggered military service obligations that were not fulfilled, creating potential complications for future Aliyah applications. Complete disclosure of extended stays during military service age allows authorities to address these obligations appropriately during the immigration process. Security screening procedures utilize previous entry records to conduct background checks and verify applicant information against existing databases. Multiple visits to Israel often expedite security clearance processes, as applicants with extensive prior travel have already undergone repeated security screening without incident. However, any security-related incidents during previous visits must be thoroughly documented and explained, as these events remain permanently recorded in Israeli security databases. Documentation sources for establishing entry dates include passport stamps, which provide the most authoritative evidence of border crossings, though electronic entry systems increasingly supplement traditional stamping procedures. Airline ticket records, credit card statements showing Israeli purchases, hotel receipts, tour group documentation, and personal photographs with timestamps can all serve as supporting evidence for travel dates. Some applicants maintain detailed travel journals or digital records that facilitate accurate reconstruction of their Israeli travel history. Missing documentation creates challenges for applicants who cannot locate complete records of their Israeli travel history. Lost passports, incomplete record keeping, or travel that occurred before digital documentation became standard may leave gaps in the chronological record that must be addressed through alternative documentation or sworn statements. Israeli authorities understand that perfect documentation may not always be available, particularly for travel that occurred many years ago, but expect applicants to make reasonable efforts to reconstruct their travel history. Extended family considerations affect travel history documentation when family members have different immigration statuses or have made Aliyah at different times. Previous visits to family members who had already made Aliyah may involve different immigration procedures or extended stay authorizations that must be properly documented. These family connections often strengthen Aliyah applications by demonstrating ongoing ties to Israeli society and establish support networks within the country. Educational program participation requires detailed documentation of any formal or informal educational experiences in Israel, including university study abroad programs, yeshiva study, Hebrew language courses, archaeological expeditions, or specialized training programs. These educational connections often represent significant investments in understanding Israeli society and culture, strengthening the overall Aliyah application while requiring comprehensive documentation of participation and completion. Religious pilgrimage documentation encompasses visits for Jewish holidays, life cycle events, religious study, or spiritual exploration that demonstrate connection to Israeli Jewish life. Participation in religious tours, celebration of bar bat mitzvah ceremonies in Israel, attendance at family religious events, or personal spiritual journeys all contribute to the overall picture of Israeli connection while requiring accurate documentation of dates and purposes. Business travel history must distinguish between tourism and legitimate business activities, documenting any professional conferences, business meetings, commercial negotiations, or economic development activities conducted during visits to Israel. Business travelers often have more detailed documentation through corporate travel records, expense reports, and professional correspondence that can facilitate accurate reconstruction of their Israeli travel history. Volunteer experience documentation includes participation in archaeological digs, kibbutz, volunteer programs, charitable organization work, environmental projects, or social service activities that demonstrate commitment to Israeli society. These volunteer experiences often represent transformative periods in applicants' relationships with Israel, requiring detailed documentation of the organizations involved, duration of service, and specific activities undertaken. The compilation of comprehensive travel history often reveals patterns of increasing connection to Israel over time. showing progression from initial tourist visits through more sustained engagement with Israeli society. This documented evolution strengthens Aliyah applications by demonstrating genuine rather than opportunistic interest in Israeli citizenship, while requiring applicants to construct coherent narratives about their developing relationship with the country.